Hey guys, it's Heyyyy. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope you're all doing well. And in today's video we are going to be doing my November reading wrap up. So before I go over the books that I have read this month, I'm going to go over the books that were on my physical TBR that I chose in my November TBR video that I did not get around to reading. There is 4 of them this month I did not read. I chose 6, I read 2 of them, did not read 4 of them. I could have tried to do better in December, but anyway, let me just go through those 4 books. The reason why I didn't really read any of these is because they didn't fit into any videos that I was doing, or I didn't have time to read them. So the first one was Next to You by Hannah Bowman Young. Then there was Crimson River by Devoney Perry, which is a 5th book or 4th book in the Eden series. I want to say it's the 5th. Then there's Bride of the Shadowkin by Sylvia Mercedes. Then there's Between Commitment and Betrayal by Shana Rose. So those are the 4 books from my November TBR that I didn't end up reading. Now let's go through the books that I did read. It wasn't the first one I finished this month, but it's the first one I picked up. I decided to reread Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, which is the first book in the Empyrean series, and I decided to annotate it this time. I don't know if you can see those annotation tabs, because I'm preparing for Onyx Storm in January, so I'm going to read Iron Flame this month at some point. But if you don't know what like Fourth Wing is based, it follows Violet Sorrengail, and she's always trained ever since she was little to become a scribe at the War College, and then her father passes away. Her mum decides no, she's going to become a dragon rider, so then she goes into the dragon rider section of the War College, and it just follows her journey of that. And there's so many shocking bits, there's love, there's heartbreak. I just love this series so much, and I'm so excited for Onyx Storm. And I gave this 5 stars. I knew I was going to give this 5 stars because I gave it 5 stars the first time, and it still gave me everything that I felt when I first read it. I'm still trying to find a dragon-based fantasy book that gives me the same feels as this one, and I haven't succeeded yet, because I want another one that's not as the same as this, but it has similar vibes and it gives me the same feeling as I felt when I read this one. So the next book I picked up was Hunting Adeline, and then also Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton, and I'd done a reading vlog on this, so if you want to watch my thoughts and my feelings at like real time while I was reading it, you can go do it then. So I'm not going to say too much, but I gave these both 4 stars because I did like it. I didn't particularly like some of the stuff that was going on, but I found the storyline quite interesting. This series like follows Adeline, and she starts having like a stalker, and she's in her like big old creepy house, and she's look out the window and she can like feel someone staring at her, and then she sees someone there, and it just kind of evolves from there. And I feel like if you want to get into dark romance, don't pick up this one first. Don't pick up these ones. These are probably the darkest books I've read, especially Hunting Adeline. That was very twisted, very triggering. So I feel like if you do want to read these and you've never read dark romance, maybe read some of the more dark romances before you read this one to ease you into it, because these are very dark, very triggering. And if you do end up reading these, check the trigger warnings. I feel like everyone says that, but you really need to, because some of the things are so triggering and some people could be really triggered by them. So before you read them, if you do want to read them, check the trigger warnings. Also, because of how many like trigger warnings there are, I feel like I would not recommend these to anyone, because they're decent books, but you just don't know what someone will like and someone gets triggered by. So I wouldn't recommend these books, but if you do want to read them, check the trigger warnings. After reading those 2 books, I decided to read something light and fluffy just to clear my headspace, and I chose Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. And this book follows Stella and Aidan. Stella has recently just gotten out of prison and she's trying to start her life back up, and I think she's walking along like 5th Avenue, and she's walking there, she stumbles upon a shop, and she's looking in like the shop window, and she's thinking to herself how much better this shop window could have been. And she's looking there, and then this guy comes up, stands next to her, and was like, oh, what would you do better, how would you do it, things like that. So then that turns out to be Aidan, and Aidan turns out to be the owner of this business. So he like hires her, employs her on this like trial period to see if she can make it better than what it is. and that's basically what this follows, and I really liked this. While I was watching this, I was listening to like Christmas music but without like the lyrics, that sort of thing, and I could just really picture this as like a Christmas like movie. Every scene I was just picturing it in my head, and I was having such a good time while reading this. And this book is like so short. I believe it's 250 pages, so if you want something short to read over Christmas, this is probably like the perfect book. But the thing that happened in the epilogue, it had me like, I had tears in my eyes while reading it. I did give this 4 stars because I didn't feel like it was quite a 4.5 or even a 2.5. So I did settle on 4 stars for this book. And I just loved both the characters in it and their like chemistry and that. It was just so cute and adorable. The next book I read was The Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. So this book follows Kira and Bennett. Kira has just recently moved to this small town and she's brought the Christmas tree farm, and Bennett is sisters with someone who lives in the town, and he's currently staying in her old flat above the, I believe it's above the cafe that she runs, because she's just recently moved in with her partner. And he's just here for the holidays, I guess, to see his sister, spend time with her, and get away from life that he has back where he lives. And like, Kira hates Christmas, so I believe her plan at first, she wasn't going to reopen the Christmas tree farm, but then she does decide to reopen the Christmas tree farm, and Bennett just comes around one day and he just starts helping her with things. But there was parts in this that I did feel was quite similar to the first, I can't remember which, was it the first one or the second one in this series? There's elements that were similar. It wasn't completely similar, but it did remind me of one of those books. I feel like I can't really remember much else about this book, but I did enjoy it while I was reading it, and I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars. The only thing, if you do like books that have like dual POV, this book is not dual POV, it's told in third person, which I feel like majority of people who read romance books, not everyone, most of them prefer first person like over third person, because you get, I feel like you get more in-depth thoughts and feelings from the characters, and it makes me connect to the characters more as well. The next book I picked up was How My Neighbour Stole Christmas by Megan Quinn, and this book follows Colin's story, and Cole has lived in this whole Christmas town his whole life. This town that he lives in, it's like Christmas all year round. And Story, she used to come to this town every Christmas because I believe, I want to say it was her great auntie lived in this town, and then I can't remember how old they were. I believe they might have been like later teenage years. They stopped coming to see her great auntie anymore, and then around that sort of time something happened to Cole. I don't want to say what because I don't want to spoil the story for you. She hasn't been in quite a lot of years. I can't remember exactly how many years, but it's been quite a long time. And then her great auntie becomes sick, so then her and her sister decide they're going to go spend the Christmas with their great auntie and help her out around the holidays. Also, ever since what happened to Cole when the last time Story was there, he hasn't liked Christmas since because of the circumstances. Story's great aunt always enters this like Christmas crinkle contest, and it's basically loads of different like separate little competitions where you, if you win or whatever place you get, I believe you get points, and then the person with the points at the end, do they win something? I think it's something like that. So Story enters into it for her great aunt, and then Cole finds out, and then Cole's house somehow also decides he's going to compete in it. So then they're competing against each other, they're sabotaging each other at points, and then also at one point they end up having to fake date for a reason or another. And this book gives off such strong Christmas vibes. I was just having such a like good time while I was reading it, and Cole's like backstory and his past, it just broke my heart whenever you found out a bit more, like pieces more about it. The third act breakup, I did not like it, but it had nothing to do with like Cole and Story. None of them had like a play in it. It was another character from the story that had like involvement in their like conflict and like their third act breakup sort of thing. So I don't mind it, but the person who done it, I despise them for it, and I settled on giving this book a 4 stars. So the next book I picked up was Love Light Farms by B.K. Burrison. This follows Stella and Luca, and Stella's recently brought like a Christmas tree farm, but it does other sort of farm things and she's like trying to save it because she's running low on money, and she's got her two best friends help her run it, so she's having to cut down on things to be able to pay them and stuff like that. So someone she follows on like social media is doing this competition. The competition she entered is where this like influencer will come out to the farm and she will do some post on her social media about the farm to be hopefully bring it more attraction, so more people will come and visit the farm. And when Stella put the application in, on her application she said her and her boyfriend ran it together, and that is a lie because she does not have a boyfriend. Luca is her best friend and he like lives in the city and works in the city, and every now and then he will come visit his aunties and his mum and Stella because they all live in the same little small town. Her two friends, one's female, one's male, she asks the male one, oh, would you be able to fake date me and pretend to be my boyfriend when their influencer comes around and films everything? He's like, no, ask Luca. So she does eventually ask Luca, and then they start like fake dating when this influencer comes around. To make it believable to the whole town, they fake date to the whole town, so like including his mum and everyone in the town, so they all believe that they are dating. That's a short summary of what this book is about. I loved like Luca's mum and aunties. I believe there was only like one scene that had the whole like of them all in it together, and I found it so funny, and I wanted more of that. And this is like a friends to lovers, because I believe they've been friends for, I can't remember how many years, but it's quite a while. And I feel like sometimes friends to lovers, I don't particularly see them as like more lovers, like romantically. I see them more as friends, but I feel like this one I can see them as like a couple and being romantic with each other, and I could just tell they had chemistry even when they were friends. And I just loved the small town that this was set in, and I'm hoping the next book in the series are set in the same small town, because I just can't wait to see more of the characters and this town and just all of it in general. Overall, I think this is such a cute, sweet romance book, and I feel like if you love friends to lovers, small town romances and like fake dating, I would definitely recommend this to you. Also, I don't think I said what I gave this. I gave this 4.25. So the next book I read was Daughter of Nowhere by Carissa Broadbent. Just sitting here looking at a book, I can't really remember what it was about at all, but I did have a really good time. But I'm sitting here like, what was this book about? I can't really remember anything that was in it. That's really bad. But all I remember is I did like it. I thought it was a decent start to a fantasy book. I found it like really easy to follow along with. One thing I do wish there was no map, and I wanted a map, especially in fantasy books, because I love just like following around and flipping back to the map to see where they are and where they're going. I really liked Max Antisana, I believe that's how you pronounce the name. Not sure, have no clue if that's right, but that's what I'm going with. I liked how they like developed as characters, and I really enjoyed the romance aspect of this book. I feel kind of bad that I can't tell you guys what this book is really about, because I can't remember. My brain is just gone like that. But I'm gonna put the blurb, a picture of the blurb, like right here, so if you do want to read that, you can pause it, because if I try and read this out, I'm gonna be stuttering so many times, because me and speaking out loud, it's not good. So it's right here, so if you want to read it, do pause it, because I feel like I would recommend this if you like romantasy, because I did give this 4 stars, but I just can't remember what it was about. Like I've said a million times now so far, but I would say I definitely would recommend it. Next book I picked up was Satan's Affair by H.G. Carlton, and technically you are meant to read this before the like Cat and Mouse duet, which is the other 2 books of H.G. Carlton's that I've shown in this video, but I did not do that. And I feel like you don't have to, but it will kind of set up part of the story if you do read this before, but I don't think you are missing out if you just skip this. This book follows Sibby, and she shows up in Haunting and Hunting Adeline, and this basically follows her when she used to work in like Satan's Affair. Satan's Affair is like this really creepy haunted house that travels around like I believe it's in the United States, but she is not officially, I believe, part of this like haunted house. She like hides in the walls and like looks through them and like picks her like victims. Because I don't really want to say too much because it is such a short book. I don't want to spoil it, and I don't know what I can say without YouTube not liking this video. And she like has these like henchmen, but nobody else can see them. She's almost like hallucinating them, and I feel like that's all I can say without giving the book away too much. And this book is crazy when I tell you. It is really just wacky. And like with H.G. Carlton's other books, check the trigger warnings before you read this, because a lot of things in this like book, as well as like the Haunting and Hunting Adeline books, they get described in a very graphic like details. I also love to get into like see Sibby more, because I really did love her in the Cat and Mouse duet, and getting to read more about her and her childhood and how she was just brought up. That part did make me sad a bit. But I also believe, I want to say, Sibby is getting her own duet, because like at the end of Hunting Adeline, it gets left off like a cliffhanger with Sibby. Not happens, but Sibby does something and it kind of just leaves it at that. And I believe, I can't remember where I saw it, but I'm not 100% sure, but I believe she is having her own duet, and I'm just really excited for that because I just love Sibby as a character. And I gave this a 3.5 stars. The next book I picked up was Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage, and this is the third book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and this one follows Gus and Teddy. Gus is like technically a single dad, but the mother of his child, usually like they split like custody of her because they both live in this like small town, but then the mother of Gus's child goes away, believe, for the summer to go to do, I don't know if it's something to do with a law firm or learning law, or it's something along the lines of that, so she's not going to be there for a while. Gus like runs like the family ranch, and he's like struggling with like trying to look after his daughter and running the ranch at the same time. So Emmy, his sister, decides to, at their like family breakfast they have, that Emmy, her dad and Gus's brother, they're all gonna like talk to him and be like, you need to get help. So they do that, and then Gus is like, okay, yeah, I'll take the help. And Emmy's like, why don't you use Teddy, who is Emmy's best friend, to help with like his daughter and help her out and like nanny her and babysit her when he needs extra help? And he reluctantly says yes. So then it's like this like nanny slash single dad trope, and it kind of gives off the same vibes as Heartless, especially because the characters, both Willa from Heartless and Teddy, are redheads, and the love interest is like a grumpy ranch work owner sort of guy. So they're quite similar in like the character aspect, but then also quite different at the same time. So I feel like if you did like Heartless, you will love this book, and if you love the whole series, like Chestnut Spring series, you should definitely try this series out, because it gives off like the same sort of like vibes and things like that. And also these books are so short as well, you can like read them so quickly. I believe I read this one in like a whole day because I just sat there and binged it. It was just so good. And ever since you met Gus and Teddy in Done and Dusted, they were just my favourite, and I feel like this was just such an anticipated read for me, and it did deliver. Gus and Teddy's story delivered. This book made me cry, it made me laugh, it had me like kicking my feet, giggling, it made me feel all the emotions. And I loved like the bantering and the bickering that happened between them, but I think my favourite moments were those like tender and sweet moments. And then at one point during the story, something happens to Teddy, and like Gus is like really there for her, and it's just such a sweet and wholesome moment. I just loved it so much, and I just loved the dynamic of Gus, Riley, which is Gus's daughter, and Teddy when they're all in scenes together. It just made me so warm and happy. And also what Gus done at the end, I believe, was it in the epilogue or the last chapter? No, I think it was the last chapter before the epilogue, what he'd done for Teddy and Riley. It was just so cute and adorable. I just love Gus so much. In the epilogue of this book, it kind of sets up for the next book in this series, which is, I believe, is it something like Wrecked and Wrangled, I want to say? And I'm really excited about that, because that book follows the mother of Gus's child, and you haven't actually seen the two characters for the next book in a scene together, but what you've like heard about them, I'm just really excited for that. And also if you couldn't tell what I rated this book, I gave this 5 stars because it just gave me that feeling, that 5-star feeling when I was reading it. So the next book I picked up was The Throne of Broken Gods by Amber V. Nicole, and this is the second book in the Gods and Monsters series, and this follows like Diana and Sam Kyle, I think. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. And this is a chunky book. I believe it's around like 800 odd pages. Yeah, it's almost 800 pages. So it's very long and very thick. And I feel like I can't really explain this to you without giving like the first book away and the story away. So I feel like I'm not going to give a summary of this. I don't know what to say without spoiling the first book if I was to summarise this book. So I'm just going to go straight to my thoughts and feelings of this book. I just love how this book expanded of the world and the world building and everything in general. I just loved how you got more in-depth like explanations of things and everything like that, and like the found family aspects in this book and the first one, it just made me love this book and the first book even more. Diana's like character development through this book, you take a real journey with her through this book, because at the end of the last book something's happened and you're in this book, you're watching her heal, come to terms with it, and I was really happy for her but then also sad at the same time because of what she's lost. I can't say what because I don't want to spoil it, but she's lost something and it made me sad for her because of what she's lost. There was a lot of POVs from a lot of different characters in this book, and I really enjoyed like getting more in-depth thoughts from different characters because I just find this whole world and all the characters just so intriguing. I like the plot twist at the end. I was just so shocked and I felt quite betrayed by some of the characters, but I feel like there's an explanation to it, so I'm just excited to get on to the next book to find out maybe why they done certain things. And I gave this book a 5 stars because it was phenomenal. First book in this series is called The Book of Azrael. I believe I gave that 4.5, so this is a solid fantasy series. So my camera just overheated, so let's get back to what I was doing. I believe I finished what I was saying about the last book, and the next book I picked up was first and second book in the Mine series, which is The Risk and Sidetracked, and this like series follows Lorna Myers, and Lorna is like a serial killer and she goes around people. Who happens to be the person she starts dating is the FBI agent who's like trying to solve the murders. And I feel like if you want to get into dark romance, this is probably quite a good place to start. Even though I haven't finished this series, I am really liking it. I'm really enjoying the way the story is going and how it's progressing, and it's not as heavy as some like dark romance books. Like the first book in this series and the second book in this series, they both live on cliffhangers, and each time I finish a book, I'm just sat there in shock. I have to sit there for 5 minutes and just like think about it because I'm just like trying to process what just happened sometimes. And I just enjoy how strong of a woman Lana is, and I just enjoy the dynamic that's going on so far between Lana and Logan, and I feel like it's so good and their story is just so unique. I haven't read anything like this yet. I'm looking forward to reading the next 3 books in this series because yeah, it's 5 books, so I've got 3 more left to read. The first book, The Risk, I gave 3.75, and then the second book, Sidetracked, I gave 4 stars. Then I started filming reading Christmas books at the end of this month, so 2 of those books I read in November, so let me go through them. One of the books I picked up, and it was Under Mistletoe. Why can't I say mistletoe? Yeah, Under the Mistletoe with You by Lexi Huxley Jones. And this book follows Christopher and Nash. Christopher has just recently moved to this really tiny small town in northern Wales, and he's like brought like a bakery and the flat above the bakery, so he's opened up a bakery. I think he was going to spend time with his sister at Christmas and like her sister's partner, so that's where he was going to go, and he decided over the Christmas, while his flat is empty, he's gonna hire it out for someone. So then it comes to like a couple of days before Christmas, and he wakes up and the whole area is in thick thick snow. Somehow makes his way to the train station and he finds out no trains are running, no buses, no nothing, so he's like stuck, he's snowed in. So he goes back to his little flat, and this is like the day that this person is showing up to stay in their flat. I can't remember who he believes it is, but he believes the person who's coming to stay is a woman. And when the person who shows up is not a woman, it turns out to be someone called Nash. And Nash is like this famous like Hollywood like actor, and he is like the actor that's in all the Christmas films. And Christopher has a thing for Christmas romance, like rom-coms, so he's watched all of them. He's watched all of the films Nash is in, I think, pretty much at least. And when he sees Nash at his door, he's like, oh, what is he doing here? And it just, they both end up being snowed in the little flat, and then they're there throughout the whole Christmas period, and they start helping out the like town because everyone's like snowed in and the older people need help, and they do something on Christmas Day, and it's so sweet. And like Christopher and his friends from back where he used to live have this group chat, and they'd always talk in this group chat, and I just found it like so funny. And like what happens at the end, was it in the epilogue? I can't remember, because Nash basically eventually has to go back to the US, and he does eventually, but when he comes back he does something for Christopher, and it just really warmed my heart what he done, and it was just perfect way to end this book. And I gave this book a 3.5 stars. So the next book I picked up was Spectacular by Stephanie Garber, and this book is like a little novella to the Caraval trilogy, and it follows like all the same characters. So you've got Scarlet, Julian, Legend and Teller. This book mainly revolves around like Teller and like Legend. I did like it. I did expect a bit more of it, and I do like Teller and Legend, but Scarlet and Julian are my favourite out of the series, and I just kind of wish we got to see more of them in this. But one thing about this book, the illustrations in it, let me try and find one of the pages, because there's like illustrations on most pages. Look at how beautiful it is. That made the book a tiny bit better, but I kind of just expected a bit more from it, because this kind of follows the same structure as like the Caraval game. If you've read the Caraval trilogy, you know what that is, but in like a shortened version, and quite a bit different and more of a Christmassy vibe, if that makes sense. And this book is really quick and easy to follow because of the amount of illustrations that are in this book that take up like whole pages sometimes, and like half pages, so there's only half a page of text, and the text is really big in this book. It's really easy and quick to read. I read it in a whole day, so you could just like sit there and binge it. But maybe I was kind of expecting too much of this, because this is only like a novella and it is only around 200 pages. I decided to give this 3 stars because I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. There's things I wanted that I didn't get from it. The final book I read this month, I don't actually have a physical copy of, because I don't think there's any physical copies of this book. You can't get any because it's just a book limited to like Kindles and Kindle Unlimited. So I'm going to put a picture of the book up here, and the book is Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood, and this is literally the shortest little novella ever. It's only 78 pages. No, is it 70? Might be 73 pages. I don't know, it's around that sort of length. And if you want something like really quick to read on Christmas Day, I feel like this is one, because it takes place around Christmas and it gives all that Christmas vibes. And this is like a friends to like lovers. They were like childhood, like not best friends, but she is like best friends with his other sibling. Can't remember the name. Can't remember these 2 characters' name if I'm honest. But I do remember having such a good time because it was so short. And I read it in like one sitting. I could not put it down. And I always feel like it's so hard to rate novellas, especially ones that are like this small. And I was just so debating between different ratings. And at the time I did rate it 4 stars, but now I'm looking back and thinking, should it really be that? So I'm not sure, but I'm just going to say I gave it 4 stars at the moment. If I'm editing this and I change, I will put something on the screen somewhere saying, but I'll probably just keep it at the same, because I always say when I'm reading a book, I get the feeling while I'm reading it, and I usually like to stick with what I rate it. Those are the 16 books I read this month. I'm trying to wrap this up quickly now, because it says my camera's overheating again, and it says I only have like 3 minutes left to space on this like SD card, so I've got to wrap this up quickly. So I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, give this video a like and comment in the comment section below what was your favourite book you read in November, because mine was probably definitely Fourth Wing. Even though it's a reread, it's just probably one of my top fantasy books. Also, if you haven't yet, please do subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!